Well, I'm delighted to say that joining me on the Godcast this week is Kerry Ellis. Now, Kerry is a very famous face from the world of stage and screen. Kerry, you've been in so many wonderful musicals. It's a real delight to get you on the Godcast. Hello, and how are you?
Oh, thank you so much. I know it's been a bit chaotic trying to get us together, but I think the good thing is after the last year and a half, going on 2 years, things are starting to happen, which means I'm busy, which is exciting, but I'm very well, thank you. And the sun is shining today, so we're very happy.
It is indeed. It's early September as we record this. And Kerry, you put a few shots on your social media pages. You've been abroad in the last few days with wearing some very glamorous outfits. Tell us about that.
I know. Well, you know what? Pre-pandemic, I used to travel quite a lot for work. Very fortunately, I used to have quite a good connection with Italy, probably mainly because of the work I did with Brian May, and we would travel to Italy. We toured there about 5 years ago, and we've done various TV shows over there. So we have a lot of support, which is wonderful. And I've just recorded a song with a wonderful singer called Luca Minnelli, who's I want to say like a young Bocelli. He's got a wonderful voice, and we did a duet. We've done a few concerts together, but we recorded a duet called Forever. And I went over to film the video finally because I could travel. I mean, it wasn't the most straightforward travel, but I could travel. And it was so wonderful to just feel like there's movement again, and have kind of optimism again, and have that hope of being able to be creative. And It was wonderful to do something that was beautifully filmed, and we had lots of lovely photographs taken, and I can't wait for people to see the actual finished product. But to just be going out and doing what I do again has been just joyous.
Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to speak to a few musicians recently. I was chatting to Chris Difford from Squeeze about the joy of being back on stage, and I recently went to the Tramline Festival in Sheffield, and the buzz was just off the scale, and I'm sure you must feel that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, there is still a certain uncertainty, if you like, especially with our industry because of, just of restrictions. And I think people are still nervous to go to theatres, and for people that are performers and musicians, bookers, I think, are still a bit nervous about what to take a gamble on. But I think, we are moving the right way. I think there's a need and a want, and people want to go and see things. People have missed that live interaction. So I do think that there is movement, and we're excited to be out there, and people are excited to come and see us.
Yeah. Kerry, if we can just chat a little bit about your career. I was thinking about this, and I use this analogy that if you were a Premier League football team, then you're probably a Manchester City or a Liverpool, certainly a Manchester United. I was wondering, when did you know in your career that you were actually heading for the top? Can you remember that moment you thought, gosh, this is really happening for me now?
For me, there's never been like a specific moment, and there still isn't. I get asked this, people say, oh, when did you think you made it? When did you think you'd hit that moment? And for me, it's about longevity and about sustaining a career. I'm really proud of the things that I've done. I've done some amazing things. I've done some really high profile performances. But then I've also done some really intimate, small things that mean just as much to me as the big, huge shows, when you're playing to thousands. So for me, it's about sustaining a career and having longevity. And I don't see an end to my career. I don't see me stopping at any point. No. Touch wood. So as long as there's people that want to come out and support and enjoy what I do, then I'll continue to do it. I feel like there's no shelf life for what I do. I remember going to see Eliza Minnelli, who's an absolute icon of mine. I absolutely adore her. And I went to see her she did her own show at the Festival Hall, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe. And she was incredible. She had so many stories to tell. She had all of her musicians that she had used over the years. And I just found that inspiring. And I thought, that's what I want to do. And I want to get to a point where I can just go and tell my stories and people still come because we're talking about all the historical moments. So that, for me, that's what it's about.
Were you one of those kids at school that was earmarked for success from an early age? You know, was everybody going, God, Kerry's good, listen, watch Kerry? Was it like that, or did it evolve as you were growing?
I think I was always one of those kids that was off doing stuff. I was always going to do panto, or I remember doing the Wizard of Oz at the Wolsey Theatre, which was like the big theatre near me. I was always kind of doing that kind of thing. But I think when I was growing up and when I was at school, you know, maybe 30 years ago, it was a slightly unusual career path for someone I was from a tiny little village in Suffolk. And when I said, I want to be on the stage, I want to sing and I want to dance, the teachers, I don't think they understood a route into that. And they thought maybe it was just a bit of a pipe dream. So I think it was difficult for them to support it because they didn't understand it and they didn't have enough information. I think there is a bit more now, and there's a little bit more opportunity, and there's a few more, you know, there's more colleges, there's more information, there's social media. So we know more about it. So I think they thought it was just a hobby.
Right.
But now they embrace it. I'm still in touch with a lot of my teachers from school. If I'm performing locally, they support me, they come and see me. So that's really nice.
Kerry, I was thinking about your career, and you sing this iconic song, Gravity, and every kid, I mean, my kids, when I said I'm interviewing Kerry Ellis, she's the lady who sings Gravity. It's like, you know, of all young people, that song is iconic and means an awful lot. And I was trying to think, how can I ask Kerry a reasonable question that she's probably not heard before? I was wondering, Kerry, what was your Gravity song as a kid? You know, what was the song that you kind of constantly sang around the house? Mine was quite a dreary number. Mine was Memory from Cats. I used to love that song. I used to love Elaine Page. What was yours? Can you remember?
I had a few, I think, because for me, I had the double cassette of Les Mis. That was a big influence for me. Miss Saigon. So I would sing things like I Dreamed a Dream, and I would sing Give My Life for You from Miss Saigon. You know, I would just sing along to the entire soundtrack. But then I also would sing along to things like Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart and Meatloaf. I used to sing along to all the time. Kind of a bit, I didn't really know I knew who Meatloaf was, but I didn't really understand that he was a big rock star. You know, for me, it was melodic, and I could sing along to it, and I loved it because he had such a high voice. So yeah, it was a real eclectic mix. I would sing along to anything I could get my hands on, but probably the show tunes more so because I found them accessible.
Kerry, I was chatting to, I don't want to name drop musicians all the time, but chatting to Jonathan Antoine about this subject, and also to Vinnie Colaiuta, a drummer in America, about what it is about songs that take people to kind of almost like an outer body experience, and Gravity is definitely one of those songs. And for me, you know, I find that in some hymns that are just incredible, and musical songs. What do you think it is about a song that has that ability to take people to you know, another place for just maybe a few moments or a few hours if it's a full show?
Well, I think that's the beauty of music, is that it almost snapshots a time and place for you. So there'll be pieces of music that take you back to a moment in time where you felt something. Yeah. And it could be a childhood memory. I mean, I remember singing hymns at school. You know, I still remember sitting in assemblies and singing hymns, and those hymns have stayed with me my life, and that takes me back to sitting cross-legged with all my other fellow school colleagues singing these hymns with the big projector screen and the words coming up, and I think it's about when it hits you, when it makes an impression on you, it makes you feel something emotionally, that it transports you back. And I think that's the strength and the power of music. It doesn't always happen. You know, if you hear things on the radio, you might hear them and enjoy them and not really pay much attention, but you might have fun. But if there's a specific moment, i.e. if you go and see a musical and there's a moment in the show where you're overwhelmed, or you find something really funny, or you're sat there with a loved one, or or something's happened in your life, and then you go and see a show, and a piece of music will people's wedding days. You know, it's my anniversary, my 10th anniversary today, and you know, it makes me think about the songs that we played at our wedding. I think it's just about an emotional connection, and that's what makes it stick and makes it move you. And that's what, for me, that's what music and performance is all about. It's about making people feel something, or else what's the point?
Yeah. Kerry, I'm amazed that you're spending your 10th wedding anniversary in the company of of a vicar in Burnley. I'm ever so grateful. I'm not sure what your husband makes of that, but I was just what you were saying about hymns. Have you had the opportunity to sing in a cathedral, for example? I'm sure you've sung in some wonderful venues, but have you sung in cathedrals, Kerry?
I have, actually. Brian and I did, when we did our Acoustic by Candlelight first tour, we actually sang in lots of churches, cathedrals all around the country. It was almost like a cathedral church tour, and it was because we were very it was just the two of us, so we were quite portable, if you like, and we could play in different venues, and we played in a lot, and they were unbelievable. I remember this one very small church that we sang in Brighton, and it was really intimate, and we were like, this, I'm not sure this is going to work. And it was one of the best gigs that we had, because everybody was like pushed together. I remember the dressing rooms we would get and changed in, well, they weren't dressing rooms, obviously. It was one of like the little the nursery school rooms that we were getting changed in, and we were just like, I'm not sure this is going to work. But it was one of the best gigs that we ever had. There was just an atmosphere, and there was there was just a magic in the room, and it was phenomenal. But yeah, I have. Yeah.
Kerry, are you a spiritual lady? Do you get kind of sustenance from spiritual matters, whether it's faith or Reiki or yoga or whatever it might be? How do you kind of keep the mind on the straight and narrow, as it were?
Yeah, I think a lot of creatives have a connection somehow. I think we have to have some kind of belief and believe in some kind of greater good, because our industry is so difficult and so inconsistent, that I think to keep a level-headed mind, we have to have some kind of something to hold on to. For me, I like a bit of meditation. I like a bit of yoga. I'm very at one with being outside. I think I believe in something, but I don't really know what it is. I wasn't really brought up in kind of any sort of religious upbringing. We would go to church for Christmas with the school. Yeah. I guess my primary school was a C of E school, because we would do the hymn thing, and we would go to church for Easter or Christmas, just the big events. But yeah, it wasn't really in my life as a home life.
No.
But I guess as an adult, I've performed with, I performed with the Salvation Army. I performed in a lot of churches. So the connection for me is definitely there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would. Yeah, it's very different.
Still working it out, like many people, I guess.
Still working it out. Yeah, yeah.
Kerry, when I graduated from my degree, it was at the passing out ceremony was at Carlisle Cathedral, I remember, and there was about 4 dreary theologians like myself graduating. And it happened to be on the same day that the performing arts students were passing out, and not literally, of course. And there was hundreds of them. And as we went up, we got a very staid kind of round of applause. And as you can imagine, as the performing arts students went up, there was these humongous cheers and delights. And I couldn't help think how wonderful that was. But also, I couldn't help thinking, where are all these people going to work? It is a tough industry, Kerry, isn't it? And where are all these people going to work? How is the industry in your mind at this time?
I think it's been most difficult for graduates, trainees, having to train on Zoom, having to train online. I think has been the most difficult. So I think for the past kind of couple of years, those people that have been in college or not in college on screens, those people that have just graduated, where the industry is up in the air and we don't know where we are, I think is the most difficult, because it's not been it's hard enough at the best of times, but to have this thrown on top of us as well is even more difficult. And I feel for them because they're not getting a gauge of what the industry is about. However, lots of them have gained lots of positive things from it. I mean, loads of people know now how to self-tape. We know how to communicate on Zoom. We know how to rehearse on Zoom. I mean, we'd never done that before. So I think there's positives to be gained from it. However, I think a lot of people that do graduate from college, they don't all go into the industry. Some people create their own dance schools. Some people go into media. They go into other avenues, and that's quite normal as well. So I don't think that's changed. But yeah, I mean, like, it's difficult. It is difficult. It's difficult for people that have been in it for years, you know, that it changes all the time, and there's always different obstacles. We've just had 2 years of, you know, an even bigger obstacle. But it's how you it's how you navigate through it, and how you move on, and how you recreate yourself, and what you come up with in those times. So I mean, I did my own podcast at the beginning of the first lockdown, and we're now in season 4 of mine, which is called Keep Calm and Carry On, and I've loved it. It's been a lifeline for me. I've written a book. I've done music over the lockdown. I've sold my album. So there is ways to create in restrictions. It's just if you have the drive and the will to do it. Yeah,
I think good words there of encouragement for people to keep going, basically, isn't it? You've just got to keep going. Kerry, can I ask about Brian? You've talked about Brian Meg, mentioned him a few times. When you first met him, were you like most people who meet these kind of icons of rock and roll? Do you remember that first meeting with him, and were you kind of rabbit before the headlights? So were you quite calm and thought, I'm going to make a good impression here?
Well, it's circumstance. The first time I actually met him was when I auditioned for We Will Rock You. He had came to see me in My Fair Lady previously, but I didn't know. I didn't meet him at that point. So the first time I met him was in an audition, and I was singing his song for him. That was pretty daunting, but I think the whole scenario was overwhelming because Roger Taylor was there, Ben Elton was there, Arlene Phillips was there. It was a lineup of incredible people. I was really fortunate to get to sing one of his songs for him. And then obviously I got to work with him in the show, and he was in helping us through the rehearsals, which was wonderful. And then eventually we got into the studio and started working.
And what's he like, Kerry? He strikes me as a incredibly articulate fellow and a master of his craft. Do you still manage to have those kind of meltdown moments of laughter with Brian, or just
all the time? Well, I think that's why we work so well together, because we're so yin and yang. I mean, we're so other ends of the spectrum. I mean, he's so incredibly intelligent, and not to say that I'm not, but I'm not on his wavelength at all. We're so different, and I think he finds me quite funny for that reason. But I think what does bring us together is that we both have passion for the music, and what he does well is obviously he plays his guitar and I sing, and the two marry together quite well. And that's what brings us together, is just the passion of what we do and what we bring to the table. And he's brilliant. Yeah, he's really great.
Yeah, I just want to ask you a question. That's something I was listening to Radio 2 yesterday, Kerry. They were talking about Freddie Mercury. There was an author on who I think he's written a book about the lives and loves of Freddie or something. And she said that if Freddie was alive today, he wouldn't be doing Queen. With your experience of Brian and your knowledge of music, do you think that's true or not?
I think they would have just gone strength to strength. I mean, they're so creative, so dramatic. I mean, look at what they've done without Freddie in the last 20 years. The film, the musical, the documentaries, the new music, the tours. I mean, it's just gone on and on. I think they would have just been doing it, if not more, with Freddie. I mean, Freddie was that creative loose cannon, if you like, and I think they would have just kept going and got bigger and stronger. I really do.
Yeah. Kerry, I just I'm mindful of time. I just want to ask you about your career in the musicals, and you know, you've sung some iconic songs and you've played some iconic roles. I even noticed that you'd played Mary Magdalene in Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's right.
It is. Yeah, I'm on a concert. I didn't do the show, but I did it in a concert. So yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to play some incredible roles and tour the world and play on Broadway, and it's been magical. I'm grateful.
And if you had to get rid of all of those roles bar one,
Ooh.
which
That's
one?
tough.
I know it is, because I was thinking, well, I could pick. But if you had to get rid of all those roles bar one, which one would be left standing for you to jump on stage to?
I think I had the most fun in We Will Rock You and Oliver. I had the most fun in those two musicals, but Wicked was probably the most influential in my life.
Yeah. And what have you got coming up, Kerry? What's on the horizon? You've talked about this being out in Milan.
Yes, coming up. Lots of concerts. Christmas is busy for me, so I'm really hoping that, you know, Christmas just happens and we get, you know, back on stage. So just lots of orchestral concerts, more recording, back in the studio, and yeah, maybe a new show next year. Who knows?
Wonderful. And my last question is, Kerry, because I do ask this because I'm a proud Lancastrian. Have you performed up these parts? You've been on the stage in Blackpool?
I have done, yeah. Hang on, call you.
So my last question, Kerry, for you is, you know, I'm a proud Lancastrian up in the Lancashire in the northwest. Have you managed to perform in our beautiful Blackpool theatres?
I have. You know, I did my first show called Magic of the Musicals, and we toured, and I actually came up to Blackpool and performed up there then. And I think Brian and I kind of ventured. We didn't quite get as far as Blackpool, but we did venture quite north. I normally go Scotland as well, so I'm going to have to get back to Blackpool very, very soon.
You are indeed. Kerry, it's been a real pleasure having this opportunity to have a chat with you. I know you're a very busy lady, and I do wish you all the very best for this coming year. It's great to see you out working again and doing stuff. And, you know, if you're ever up and you're looking for a church to play, well, St Matthew's in Burnley is a beautiful church. Put it on your list. And thanks ever so much for coming on the Godcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much.
Bye.